Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. My name is 𝗬𝘀𝘀 here from Reason from Ashes. Okay. Now, to all our Malay and Muslim friends, a very uh, salam Ramadan to all of you. May your fasting month be a great one that it helps you to produce endurance and also patience and also discipline. And to all our Chinese friends, okay, who have just celebrated Chinese New Year, okay, I wish that you had a very great Chinese New Year. Now, Chinese New Year have come and also gone. Okay. Now, something interesting happened this week. There were several headlines that appeared which looked completely unrelated. But when I look at them closely, they were actually pointing to the same quiet warning most people miss all the time, right? One headline said this: 40% of EPF members meet the basic requirement savings target, which means there is an alarming 60% which doesn't fulfill that basic requirement. All right. And then another one talked about medical costs rising faster than incomes. Okay, that's also another concern. Okay, because for the older folks, all right, some of us, if our older folks do not have medical insurance, this is also a big concern for our well-building plan. And then there's also another about identity scams increasing through stolen SIM registrations. All right, this is what we talk about in our RFA framework in relation to deceptions, scams, right? And finally, which we all have been well aware, is the current ongoing global tensions that is quietly affecting the markets around the world, right? So whether you're into investment, whether into oil, I have a lot of friends been telling me buy gold, buy silver, buy this. Look, I'm no investment expert, okay? So whatever you do, study first before you jump in. But you see, here's the perception and here's the truth I discovered. Different stories, different industries, but the very same pattern. How so? You see, most crises do not begin loudly. They begin quietly, not with explosions, but with signals. Signals people postpone noticing. Numbers people promise to check later. Okay? Or even insurance policies people assume are enough. That means they assume there's enough coverage when actually there's none. Okay, there's not enough. Okay, or even savings plan. People say that they will review next month. Life continues moving, especially after Chinese New Year, and even in this season of Ramadan. We go to work, we earn income, we take care of our family. Everything appears okay and stable until suddenly it isn't. Now, stillness is where awareness begins. That's right, let me repeat. Stillness is where awareness begins. As today's theme is Stillness Saturday, I would like to draw your attention that stillness is where awareness begins. It is where we finally slow down enough to ask questions most people avoid. Questions like, let me invite you to consider the following questions, okay, for yourself. If your income paused or dropped tomorrow, what would actually happen? Would the structure of your life remain stable? How long would it be able to sustain you with what you have right now? Or would things begin to unravel very quickly? Another question: is your health protected financially? Because many people assume that their financial plans will carry them forward until a medical situation suddenly becomes the most expensive chapter in their lives. And one more question: are the people that you love relying on hope or structure? Okay, hope feels comforting. By the way, in Reason from Ashes, we always teach that hope is not a strategy, right? But let me give you a little bit of insight and truth. Structure is what protects family when lives become unpredictable. Okay. Earlier this week, we spoke about momentum, about unconscious drift, about thresholds, those moments where we realize something must change. But Stillness Saturday reminds us of something deeper. Before action comes awareness. Before strategy comes clarity. Because most people do not drift because they are careless. They drift because life moves so fast. Don't believe me? Look at Chinese New Year. Come by and gone just with the blink of an eye. And that reflection becomes rare because stillness creates the space where reflection returns. And reflection reveals signals that busyness hides. That's right, let me repeat that. Stillness creates the space where reflection returns. And reflection reveals signals that busyness hides. Okay? Think about a car dashboard. When you are driving, sometimes a small light appears, maybe blinking a bit. Low fuel, or service due, or check your engine. Yet the car is still moving, right? Everything feels normal, not so much a sense of urgency to you. But those lights are signals. Ignore them long enough, and eventually the car stops. Life works the same way. Financial stress rarely appears overnight. Health issues rarely appear overnight. Instability usually begins when signals were ignored. Okay, signals were ignored earlier. Finally, stillness is the moment we finally look at the dashboard. That means we face the truth. Okay. Now here's the encouraging part. Signals are actually a gift. Because signals appear before crisis. They give us time to adjust, time to prepare, and time to build a stronger structure. Once you see clearly, your decisions begin to change. You begin protecting the people who depend on you. You begin building systems instead of relying only on just one income. You begin aligning your health, finances, and also your long-term plans all together. Not perfectly, not necessarily perfect, but intentionally. This is what stewardship looks like. Not fear, not panic, just responsibility. The Ramadan month reminds us about discipline and patience. The end of Chinese New Year reminds us of how quickly time moves by. And weekends like this reminds us of something very simple. Sometimes the most productive thing we can do is pause long enough to see clearly again. Tomorrow evening, we will continue this conversation in a short online Zoom session. Not a sales session, not hype, just a calm discussion about something so many people quietly worry and yet they brush it aside because they just don't want to talk about it. But if you're seeking a way out, this could be the moment that you're looking for. The silent risks most families overlook, and why income alone does not necessarily create security, and how health and financial structure must work together to protect the life you are building. If you feel this might be a good moment to gain a little clarity, you are welcome to join. Because the future rarely warns loudly, but it sends signals. The people who learn to notice those signals early are usually the ones who build the most stable and peaceful lives later. Ladies and gentlemen, remember this: stillness before structure, clarity before crisis. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you will have a very, very great Saturday evening. I look forward to seeing you in tomorrow, Sunday night's preview. Okay, so those of you who want to, just PM below, and just say me, okay, me, and I welcome you to come and join me. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Have a very pleasant evening. Thank you.